I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the kickoff event for the Shelby County Alumni Chapter for the University of Alabama. My name is Wayne Keith and I'm the president of this chapter. The theme for tonight's event is Centers of Attention. On behalf of the executive committee, we all welcome you and thank you for your support of this endeavor. Our organization is about scholarships for high school students who want to go to the University of Alabama. Now, first question I ask myself is, why would they want to go to any other university? And I don't have a good answer for that. This chapter raises money to fund the scholarships through events like this kickoff and through the generosity of our sponsors and our donors. To my right is the Alabama Credit Union. They have one of the most kick-butt credit cards with a big A on there. And they would love for you to come over there and talk to them about getting one of those credit cards. But they've been very good to us. They've endowed a scholarship. They sponsor us, so they are truly involved in our endeavor of raising money for scholarships. One of our other sponsors is ATG, formerly Birmingham Budweiser, Alabama Crown, and Tuscaloosa Hyundai and Genesis. These sponsors have been very generous in their support for the chapter, and we thank them for their support. Also in attendance is Kayla White. Kayla is the Director of Alumni Engagement for the National Alumni Association. And if I want to say this, if we ever need anything, if this chapter ever needs anything, and we call the Alumni Association down there in Tuscaloosa, they respond, they help us, they get us what we need. They're phenomenal to work with. And thank you, Kayla, for coming. Dick Coffey, get you to stand up, sir. Dick is a past president of the National Alumni Association and a huge supporter of our chapter. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Dick, for all you do. At this point, I would like to ask Christy Hudgens, who is a recruiting coordinator, and Randy Sheely, who is our scholarship chair for the executive committee and the vice president of the chapter, to come up and tell you about what they do, a little bit about the scholarships.
My name is Christy Hudgens, and I am the regional recruiter for Shelby County on behalf of undergraduate admissions and scholarships. And I was just counting on my hands. I always seem to pick up new counties every year. Shelby is my largest county, but one of 10 that I serve as admissions and scholarship recruiter. So, and let me just say this. I was talking to Dr. Lemons earlier, and there was an ugly article that came out this past week on AL.com. I know that's shocking, but it had to do with enrollment and state enrollment. And our bosses saw that as well. And I just wanted to tell y'all, we have no idea where that data came from. That is not based on any sort of present data. I attended, I would say, anywhere from 45 to 50 scholarship ceremonies this spring to award students their scholarships that will be attending to University of Alabama. Well, actually just started school yesterday. And at every single event that I was at, Alabama awarded more than Auburn did. So I think we're doing just fine in state. We are going to end up having about 8,000 students, freshmen that started yesterday on campus, which to my knowledge is the record enrollment. And our in-state enrollment is definitely up. Like I was talking to Dr. Lemons earlier about, if you just look at the statistics and everything that we offer for our in-state students. We are catering to in-state students, but who wants to be in New Hampshire in November when it's 5 degrees and they can be at Bryant Denny listening to Chris Stewart, right? So I would definitely attribute a lot of that to our success. And I don't know if you realize this as well, but there are regional recruiters like myself in every single state. For example, there are 4 in California, there are 4 in Texas. We are everywhere. So we're actively recruiting the best and the brightest to come to the best campus in the South, and we did that this year. But numbers do not come out until October. So AL.com, we're not sure where they got that information, but rest assured, we are doing very well on campus. Just hoping we have enough beds for these students as well. But like they were talking about Kayla with the Alumni Association, if you all have any students who you want to visit campus or you would like for me to talk with, please forward those names to me. I'm local. I live in Birmingham and work out of my house, and I visit all of my schools. Although I have 9 counties, I will be in every one of them by the time Christmas gets here. So please feel free to contact me. Any questions? I work closely with Randy with the scholarships that you all give as a chapter, which he's going to tell you in just a second. Y'all are phenomenal with the scholarships that y'all give. I just blow most of the chapters out of the water, and we awarded a lot this spring because of all of your hard work. So we appreciate that on behalf of our office. And this is my 11th year in this position, and just thank you so much for having me. And roll Tide.
Christy does a fantastic job for our chapter and recruit students. So please, if you know any students or if they need more information on admissions or scholarships, please, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with Christy, but she does a great job because that's our number one goal. We're going to hear from great speakers tonight and have a great time, but our number one priority as a chapter is recruiting students from Shelby County, Alabama to attend the University of Alabama, and we're focused on that every single day. A lot of people think that endowing a scholarship is just a humongous task, and it takes achieving a balance of $25,000 over 5 years, and that sounds like a ton of money. But, you know, we got a lot of great volunteers who get sponsors, and we allocate a big portion of our budget to matching contributions that people make. So just to give you an example, to achieve $25,000 over 5 years, if you just did $2,000 a year, and the chapter was able to match that $2,000, we would send that $4,000 collectively down the university. Now the National Alumni Association has a pot of money from people who buy car tags. So if you don't have an Alabama car tag, buy a car tag because a portion of that goes to scholarship matching program. They've been matching anywhere from 65% to 100% in any given year with the car tag money. So all of a sudden your $2,000 contribution becomes $4,000 with the chapter and becomes $6,400 with the National Alumni Association match. So in 4 years, you would already have $25,000 endowed scholarship, and that starts generating income to help students in Shelby County attend the University of Alabama. So it sounds like a lot, but if you just break it up like that and let the local chapter help some and the National Alumni Association help some, you can get there real quickly. And we have a couple of examples of that tonight. We have a couple of people who have endowed scholarships, and there's usually a banquet every year in Tuscaloosa, and they weren't able to attend, so we're going to recognize them tonight. The first one is, and I would like for them to come up, Alex and Pam Morton established the Pam H. Morton and Alex Morton Endowed Scholarship. Pam graduated from the University of Alabama with a BS degree in sports fitness management in 1993, received her master's in 94 in health education and promotion. She went on to earn her doctorate. She's obviously the smartest one in the family. She was part of the nationwide movement for a smoke-free class of 2000 with the American Heart Association, continues today to promote healthy living with her family, friends, and community. Alex graduated from the University of Alabama in 93 with a BS degree in finance and later an MBA from UAB in 94. He began his career in banking with South Trust in 1995 and later with BBVA. He joined Iberia Bank in 2017 as Executive Vice President and Birmingham Market President. He's an advocate for financial literacy and children in the Birmingham area and serves on the Executive Committee for Junior Achievement. They both live in Shelby County and raised 3 kids who all went to Oak Mountain. So please join me in recognizing Alex and Pam for endowing a scholarship to send students in Shelby County to the University of Alabama. Our next scholarship was established by Ken Dortch in honor of his parents. He established the Kirksey and Virginia Dortch Memorial Endowed Scholarship. Kirksey graduated from the University of Alabama with a BS degree in accounting in 1950 with financial aid from the GI Bill after he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Kirksey was raised in Thomasville, Alabama, and served in the Pacific Theater during World War II. After graduation, Kirksey became a salesperson for Durr Surgical in Birmingham, where he worked until his retirement in 1992. Kirksey also served Durr as the Birmingham branch manager and vice president of marketing in the Montgomery headquarters. And this is a great example of establishing a scholarship in honor of somebody who's had an important effect on your life. So Ken, come on up and please join me in recognizing and thanking Ken for establishing an endowed scholarship to student Shelby County. Just to give you a little information, and on the tables, there's not enough for everybody, but there's 2 sheets. One that shows the endowed scholarships, the Shelby County, and in 5 years, we've gone from about 4 scholarships to 12 endowed scholarships, and we're working on 2 or 3 other ones. And then you can see the amount awarded to Shelby County students has more than tripled over the past few years. We started 9 scholarships in the past 5 years, and the amount awarded, like I said, is triple. We gave out almost $22,000 this past year to students in Shelby County. And our current scholarship balance, the market value is $615,000. So that's a tremendous achievement. So we need your help. Our goal is to do basically 2 scholarships a year over the next 5 years, and hopefully within 5 years we can hit $1 million in our scholarship fund and give out more money. There's several people here who have endowed scholarships, so give it some serious thought, and if you need any more information, please see me after the meeting, but we'd be happy to help, and we need your help sending students in Shelby County to the University of Alabama. Thanks a lot.
There's a reason that Randy Shealy is a scholarship chair, and that just shows it. I mean, he has worked hard. He's tireless about that, very passionate about it, and just does a phenomenal job. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Mr. Sasser, are you in the house? Jim is the past president of the Shelby County Alumni. He is now the vice president over District 4, which is Jefferson and Shelby County. He's on the executive committee for the National Alumni Association. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Mr. Sasser.
Thanks, Wayne. It's my distinct pleasure to do what I'm about to do. Several of you were in attendance at the National Alumni Association Leadership Workshop in Tuscaloosa last month. The keynote speaker for that event on Friday night was Chris Stewart. And I will tell you, I was lucky to be in attendance. And he gave one of the most passionate, heartwarming presentations about faith and family and love and respect and perseverance. And so our executive committee here in Shelby County Chris has always done everything we've asked him to do. He's always been a giant supporter of the Shelby County chapter. So we have a resolution I'm going to read to you. This passed a couple of weeks ago. And again, it reads as follows. Whereas Chris Stewart has been a long-time supporter and friend of the Shelby County chapter of the University of Alabama National Alumni Association. Whereas Chris Stewart is a native of Fairfield, Alabama, and graduated from Central Park Christian High School. Whereas Chris Stewart graduated from the University of Montevallo in 1992 and was honored with the college's 2009 Alumni Achievement Award and inducted into the University of Alabama Athletics Hall of Fame in 2021. And whereas Chris Stewart has been the voice of Alabama basketball and baseball for over 20 years and has been named Alabama Sportscaster of the Year on 5 occasions by the National Sports Media Association. And whereas Chris Stewart's play-by-play of Alabama basketball makes all Tide fans want to turn the sound down on the TV and listen to his call, because his enthusiasm and one-of-a-kind description of play. And whereas Chris Stewart has been an integral part of sportscasting for University of Alabama athletic events, and will continue to do so for years to come, and has been an inspiration to all alumni and friends of the University of Alabama. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Shelby County chapter of the National Alumni Association recognizes Chris Stewart's achievements and contributions to Shelby County chapter and the National Alumni Association and the University of Alabama. And further resolved, expresses its appreciation and gratitude for his contributions by awarding him and his family a lifetime family membership into the Shelby County chapter of the University of Alabama National Alumni Association. This was actions taken by the executive committee of this chapter on August 2nd, 2012, and the resolution is signed by Wayne Keith. Chris?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
We're all lucky to have Chris. He's a wonderful representative of the University of Alabama, and we look forward to listening to you on the radio this fall. And again, thank you so much for what you do for our chapter and the university.
Before I get started tonight, I want to take a little time on a personal note to thank 2 people that's here tonight, Sid Smith and Jimmy Sasser. What many of you don't know, these 2 guys wrote a letter of recommendation for me to be part of a nomination for the Paul Bryant Award. And it's just one of the highlights that I've had here. And I thank them so much. It means a lot to me. Secondly, there's 2 people here that you need to get to know. And they're the past and president of the Bryant Museum. Olivia, Ken Gaddy, would y'all stand up? And they run the Bryant Museum. All of you, I hope will mark September 23rd on your calendar. That's the night that we're going to celebrate the Bryant Museum. We're going to celebrate the life of the TCU player Kent Waldrop. And if you remember, Kent was paralyzed in a game at Legion Field. You're all invited. You're going to get an email. Treat that as your invitation. Olivia is working with me on that, and it's going to be quite a night for us to say thank you to the Waldrops and for the Waldrop family to say thank you to us. So please show up. It's from 4:30 to 8, the Friday night before the Vanderbilt game. So, okay, we came this close to having the best group of players we've ever had since I've been doing it. Came this close. As you know, Galen McCullough was scheduled to be here, the world-renowned plastic surgeon. Mike White, who is general manager of the Galleria. Navy SEAL, actor, personal bodyguard of a couple named Bill and Melinda Gates, and Steve Mott, who played for the Detroit Lions. All of them, unfortunately, had to cancel this week. Mike had COVID, Steve Mott had a business meeting, and Galen, Dr. McCullough had a personal matter. So here we go with the three that we have tonight. The first one. Yep. They call him Mean Lou Green, a product of John Carroll. You could hit him with a 2x4 and it wouldn't hurt him. I want to tell you a little story about Lou. Lou and I went through A Club initiation together. And those of you remember the old Bryant Hall that had the Greek statues of the naked men, water fountain, and it had a pool about this deep, and it was iced down. And as part of our initiation, we had to get in that iced down fountain and stay submerged. And one of the guys in our group was a guy named Bobby Sprout, who was a first-round pick by the Boston Red Sox. He was a pitcher, and he couldn't stay under, and that was his problem. So about the fifth time he came up too early, and I looked over at Lou, and Lou says, Lou grabs the first round pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, puts his arm around his neck and takes him under. And I go under. And I open my eyes underneath the water, and here are bubbles coming out of this first round pitcher's mouth. He's about to drown. And Lou is not letting him up. And so he comes up, and he's coughing and choking, and Lou says, you shouldn't be in my group, man. It was the funniest thing you've ever seen, and that guy hadn't talked to us since. But anyway, Lou, of all things, was an academic all-SEC player and an academic All-American. Go figure that. If you know Lou, he's generally considered Mr. Bitcoin of Birmingham. Ladies and gentlemen, Lou Green.
Thank you.
The next one is Sid Smith. And Sid was a center from Warner Robins. Sid is perhaps the greatest long snapper in the history of Alabama football. He was Carson Tinker before there was Carson Tinker. In 1976, Sid received academic all-SEC honors. In his professional life, he sold medical equipment, and his boss and good friend was a guy named Jeff Amott, who later became chairman of the board of General Electric. With Sid tonight is his son Cameron, who is the lead political writer for AL.com, and we're going to get you those statistics wherever you are on those schools. We're going to the horse's mouth here. So, and the Tennessean, by the way. In his columns, Cameron refers to his children and Sid's grandchildren as the beast. I'm confused a little about Sid's academic accomplishments. You see, Sid and I are golf buddies. And 2 years ago, I agreed to meet Sid down at Love's Truck Stop down I-59. And I said, we're going to meet there. You can already tell by his expression. We were going to meet there and just take my car on down to the A Club golf tournament. And we did. And we left at about 10 o'clock to go play golf. Played golf, had a great time. Got back about 9 o'clock, which was 11 hours, give and take the turnaround time. And we pull in Love's parking lot to get his car. And the lights are on in his car. the doors are locked, and that academic all-SEC guy had left the car running for 11 hours. And those of you that are wondering how it took less than a quarter of a tank for that car to idle with the air on to still stay running. So that's a good piece of information, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the last thing I want to say about Sid. He's been a great friend through the years, and he's one of the finest Christian men I know. Period. Period. Ladies and gentlemen, Sid Smith. From Birmingham, by way of Atlanta, the originator of one of the most iconic quotes in Alabama football history. We ought to pay property tax on Neyland Stadium because we own it. $5,783 days since those puke orange, jersey wearing snitches have beaten us. 5,783 days. Roll Tide. Roger earned all SEC honors his junior and senior year and was freshman all SEC also. A radio personality and TV personality, was a contestant on the NBC reality show The Biggest Loser, where he lost 164 pounds in 5 months. One of the most beloved guys to ever wear the crimson, Roger Schultz.
That was outstanding.
And the MC tonight, I could say a lot, but I'm just going to close with these remarks. Burt Bank. Probably doesn't mean anything to you. He started it all. And today we're lucky to have Chris Stewart. Thank you.
Thank y'all. First of all, Sid, I want you to understand what's about to happen has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you, Sid. Now look, you have just given me the opportunity of a lifetime. But Satan has put me here tonight with Lou and Roger. I am asking for another, I know it's a lot to ask with all you've done for me in the last 4.5 years, but I am asking for a veil of protection unlike anything that I have asked. No sacrilege intended. In your name I pray. And all God's people said, 3 years ago, I sat down in front of the group. I think we had linemen then. I don't recall. It wasn't this group, but it was a group of players like this, which I think is a great idea that y'all started doing your deals like this. But 3 years ago, I sat down and did this because I knew I was having bypass surgery the next day, and I couldn't tell any of y'all. I'm sitting down now because I'm tired, and it ain't got anything to do with anything else. So y'all chill, I'm fine. But I do appreciate the prayers, the kindness that you have shown me. And wow, that resolution is unbelievably generous. and greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, and again, God bless us both, Sid. Here we go. I told you when you and I actually met in the lobby of the church. By the way, don't forget Lou and Roger, we are at church.
Well, hey, I did have a beer. Just saying, this is a good church.
It's a Catholic church.
Very good church.
That's allowed. What a shock. Confessional down the hall, gentlemen. Just be ready. But I gave you what I told you this. It's the ultimate compliment. I don't remember you playing. And the reason I said it was a compliment, if you're a long snapper, the last thing you want is for anybody to notice you. Is that a fair estimation?
That's very fair.
Okay.
Now, in all fairness, I want to correct you. At the time, we didn't have a snapper back.
Okay.
I played offensive center, and I got to snap the ball to the punter an extra point.
So you were doing the whole thing.
I was doing the whole thing.
That's
With voice.
Yes.
academic, all SEC, first team, academic, all
It
SEC.
was a bad year for offensive centers.
It was a good one. In all seriousness, tell me about the challenge of doing everything that was required, especially because there were no limits on practice time. On top of doing what you were doing in the classroom.
Well, I've lived most of my life in Tennessee. Raised all of our children there. I'm a Georgia boy. Pat Dye recruited me. And, the one thing that we received is we received good tutors. We had good tutors. We had, Coach Bryant, he made sure that you went to school, and that also helped. And the thing that the university has given me is it was everything. And since I was recruited by kind of an Auburn guy, but Pat Dye, he came over and he said, I told him I was going to go to Virginia Tech. And I said, I can play up there. And, Pat Dye, you have to, if you stretch him, he's 5'9". He was 5'9".
Tall man.
He was 5'9". Yes, right. He was a two-time All-American. I love the guy.
5'9's tall. I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, no offense, Chris, no offense.
None taken.
But, he said, he looked at me, he said, I'll guarantee you'll play. I said, let's go down and roll tide.
You and Bo Jackson are the ones he gave those speeches to, all that stuff.
No, but we had study halls, and if we needed help, we got help, and I majored in biology, and I'm glad I did because it sold high-tech medical equipment for 38 years, and so
Unbelievable.
it was a good thing.
Absolutely was. Lou, for you, coming out of John Carroll, tell us about how you wound up at Alabama, and again, you were a program at that time I know was really, really good. A lot of people were around the country were looking at John Carroll and getting athletes there.
Yeah, well, we were state champions in '73.
Yeah.
But 2 years previous, I would used to trip walking up the steps. Very clumsy. And I saw where Lindsey Swan had taken ballet to improve his coordination. If you're over your center of gravity, you can do things that you can't do. So anyway, I talked my parents into giving me some instruction from a lady named Carol Zanetti. I'd go to her for my junior year and senior year in high school, and I did ballet, stretched. I could always stretch. Very limber, and I could run forever. But so that's kind of Dale Serrano got involved because he
I know
got a
Dale.
ballet
I knew Dale.
operation, and he recruited me, and Bud Moore recruited me. And then, funny story, in '76, I was coming into the Coliseum. There's a little short fellow, not since you're short.
Thank you.
And he had no
Short's way down the list of negative things you say, but there's plenty.
he had these socks that came up to his knee, and I recognized him. He was a ballet guy. And I said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I'm with the Liberal Arts, and I'm supposed to have a tour of the complex." And I said, "No, why are you in Tuscaloosa?"
Yeah.
And so he told me some stuff, and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in giving me some of my teammates some instruction in ballet?" He said, "Yeah, I have to charge you." I said, "Well, how much you get?" He said, $300 an hour. And I went, "Oh, whatever."
Let me move away from the statue for just a second. Just a little.
So his name was Matthew Diamond. He's from New York City. I said, "Stay right here." So I hauled ass up the stairs. I'm gonna go see Coach Bryant. So I ran up 3 flights of steps up to the projection room, turned left, went down the hall, and I'm practicing my pitch. And I went to Linda Knowles and said, "Is he in?" He said, "Yeah, go on in." So he was turned away from the door, watching some baseball, horses and stuff. There's a layer of smoke in there. Just three ashtrays, big ashtrays. His hair's all kind of discombobulated. He's got his half glasses on. And, "What can I do for you, Lewis?" And he's facing this way. I said, "Coach, I got a guy downstairs who's going to give us instruction in ballet, and I need you to pay for it." And he started coughing. He grabbed another cigarette and lit it off this one. And he smoked almost the entire cigarette in one drag and blew it out and started spitting it. The tobacco. "Say that again." And I was like, "Oh, crap." I wasn't prepared to say it again, so I went through it again. And he goes, "Lewis, do you think it'll help?" I said, "Well, Coach, it can't hurt." He said, "Have Linda take care of it for you, Linda Knowles." And I said, "Great." He said, "Only one." I went, "Yep." So I had about 4 steps to make to get out the door. "Come back in here." And so I walked back over there and I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, you make sure you invite everybody and anybody on campus to come to your ballet thing. We don't want the NCAA thinking we're doing something for you and not for the rest of the university." I said, "I got it, I have it." So I put posters everywhere on campus. And at that time, you could swing a dead cat on a 1,000-foot rope and you couldn't hit anybody. So I got about 30 of us in the wrestling room, and he put us through the paces, and it started slow stretching. We were in about almost 2 hours, and I was the first one out the door, and I felt 18 hands hit me in the back of the head. I flipped over, I'm on my back, and these 6, Johnny Davis and Ozzy, said, "Lou, that guy's trying to kill us." So anyway, that's how that happened.
That's how that happened. Against my better judgment, hand the microphone to Roger, would you?
Good luck. Yeah, I don't mind.
I know you don't. I know you don't. You always pick at you, but you were a great player coming out of high school. You had a lot of options. At the time, Alabama wasn't what Alabama became by the time you finished, and Alabama certainly wasn't in the stretch that it's in now. Tell me why Alabama was right for you and what drew you there.
Well, I grew up in Birmingham when I was the first grade through 6th year. I lived in Homewood and lived out in Center Point. So obviously, and above my bed, I had a poster. Bear Bryant, it was the Bear Wants You. I don't know if y'all remember that.
Yeah.
Bear Wants You, and had 2 football players sitting there dreaming, and a guy with a hot girl, a cartoon girl, but she was hot.
Take what you get.
Hey, I was young. That's why I love Cher. But so I always had that, and I always wanted to play football at the University of Alabama. I never thought it would really be a reality. We ended up moving to Texas when I was in junior high, and then we ended up moving to Atlanta. And, I'm playing football, and I'll never forget my coach when I was in the 10th grade. He says, "Hey, Schultz, man, you just keep working hard, man. I think you're going to earn a scholarship one day." I said, "Man, Coach, I appreciate it." He goes, "I think Furman would be a great place for you." And I went, "Furman? Hey, I don't want to go to Furman. I want to go to, of course, I didn't even know I'd ever really get an opportunity to play at Alabama, but a guy that was at a high school near me was Billy Ray. He was one of the top quarterbacks in the country getting recruited. And I think the coach would always have to kill time. Like he had me over at 10 o'clock, and So he'd stop at my place at 9:30. I guess he just watched film. And the funny thing was, my senior year, Coach Perkins came to watch Billy play, and I was there to watch Billy play. We were scouting, and I can remember all my teammates, and we were in line in the concession stand watching Coach Perkins, and they're going, Schultz, Schultz, and I was like, shut up, He had no idea who I was. I mean, 2 months later, he offered me a scholarship, so I'm okay for Coach Perkins. But it's just one of those things, and I don't ever know how it happened, but they offered me a scholarship, and I'll never forget Coach Perkins when he offered me the scholarship, November the 11th. I'll never forget it. And he's like, "Hey, we want to offer you a chance to come play." I said, "I'm coming." He goes, "No, hey, you don't have to commit just yet." I was like, "Oh no, I'm committing. You ain't taking this away from me." And of course, recruiting back then is completely different than it is now. And I came in with, they had to have a backup center for West Neighbors, and they signed 3 centers that year. They signed Mike Zugu, who happened to be a high school All-American. And it's from Georgia, where I was from. We had Chris Robinette, who signed, who was an all-Southern center from Enterprise, Alabama. And then they signed me, and I signed as a center, but I wanted to play guard. But I ended up, playing center the whole time. That's kind of the story we may get to how I got to start at center. But that's how it was. I always dreamed of playing Alabama. And when I lived in Texas, I had nothing but Alabama stuff. So all my buddies said, it's like, you were always going to go to Alabama. But I was grateful for the opportunity, and even with these guys, it's just amazing that as we're going in life and we get to meet our heroes,
Sure.
It's kind of neat, and then you realize they're like Ludacris, and you're like, wow. Well, the first time I ever met Lou was in a bar, but that was...
Raise your hand if you're shocked by that one.
Yeah. Well, hey, that reminds me of a funny story about Kenny Stabler.
I had a feeling it might.
Yeah. I will never forget this. So Kenny Stabler had like a celebrity golf tournament down in Orange Beach or Foley, wherever we were. We were at this bar called Judge Roy Beans. Anybody been to Judge Roy Beans? Yeah. So that did go. But I'll never forget. He goes, "Hey, let's take a shot." And I was like, "A shot with Kenny Stabler?" I said, "Man, this is awesome, man. I took a shot." And I was like, "Oh my God, I took a shot with Kenny Stabler." I said, "I cannot wait to tell my dad." So I called my dad and I said, "Dad, you will not believe who I just had a shot with." And he goes, "Well, who?" I said, "Kenny Stabler." He goes, "Did he couldn't find anybody else to drink with?" I was like, "Thanks, Dad, I appreciate it." He did write a book about drinking, but I was like, "Hey, I thought it was the greatest thing ever." So, that was the first shot I ever had. No,
of course, that day.
That's when I decided to drink shots.
Yeah.
Right there.
There you go.
But that's how I ended up at Alabama. And it's funny, when I was getting recruited, it came down between Ohio State and Alabama. And I'll never forget, I came home and I'd already been to Alabama on an official visit. I asked Coach Perkins, "Hey, I got an official visit set up for Ohio State. Do you mind if I go?" He goes, "No, I don't mind." And Alabama was going to play Ohio State the first game the next year at the Kickoff Classic. And I'll never forget, so I come back home and they put me in a nice hotel, took me a nice dinner. We went to a wrestling match. I ate breakfast with King Kong Bundy and Ricky Steamboat. I mean, they can't beat that, right?
They knew how to get to your heart.
Yeah. Well, they killed each other the night before, and here we were eating, a buffet together. I said, this is awesome. But they had Nike shoes, and I thought, man, they got Nike shoes. Alabama had Pony. You remember the worst shoes ever. The worst. And but I remember coming back, and the whole time through the whole recruiting process, my dad's like, "Son, this is your decision. You're the man. You're gonna make it. This is the one you're gonna live with the rest of your life. Guys, you're gonna be with. I'm not interfering." So I come back, and he goes, "How was your trip to Ohio State?" I said, "Man," I really liked it. I don't know why I liked it. It was cold. I never even saw what a girl looked like up there. I mean, everybody was bundled up. Definitely wasn't like it was when I went on my official visit to Alabama. I can promise you that. So I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not very smart. I wasn't an academic All-American. But I can remember coming back, and I told my dad, I said, "Dad, I think I'm going to go to Ohio State." And he goes, "Shut your mouth and go to your room. I'm calling Coach Perkins." So my decision really wasn't my decision, but it was, I just had a little lapse of judgment. I was not, but I always wanted to be at Alabama my whole life, and what a great experience.
It's unbelievable. Pass that back down to Sid and Lou. I want you guys to talk, if you will, about the similarities you see in Coach Bryant, having played for him, and Coach Saban, having observed. Because one of the more amazing things for me in the time that I did the sidelines was seeing guys that were either teammates or contemporaries of yours be down there, and you guys were a part of a phenomenal era with the greatest ever. 1 and 1A now is how most of them see, and I'll let plenty of others debate that. I'm not going to get in the middle of it between coach and coach. But the similarities that you both see that made them the best of their time.
You know, Coach Bryant, you know, the number one question I get, you know, being living in Tennessee, the number one question, what was Bear Bryant really like? Oh, it's yours too. Oh, no. Is it yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's right.
Well, you know, the one thing about Coach Bryant, he demanded respect, and he was going to get it one way or the other, either out of your hide or you're going to give it to him. You know, one or the other. I mean, there was no in between. And so I think that he established, you wouldn't see a Lewis Green or Richard Todd or Rooster Rutledge going in there and say, well, Coach, I think we need to run an option off of the sun. No, that's not the way it worked. You know, he had a plan, and he was going to stick with that plan. Period. You know, I think that we can see, with what we've seen with Coach Saban, he's a pretty focused guy. I mean,
Nothing getting past you, Sid.
You can sense the intensity level with him. But you know, I can say about Coach Saban, you know, for the former players, the guy has done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you know, and I really, really want to thank him for that. But you know, that's what I've seen. You know, and you know, great coaches. You know, both of them were great coaches. You know, Coach Bryant was in a different era. You know, football players were completely different back in our day.
Yeah, they were.
And Liz, what do you think?
Oh, well, I think the similarity is both coaches wanted had good mamas and papas. He checked out their character, and it started there. And I think Saban does the same thing. Just a short story about Coach Bryant. We were playing Tennessee in Knoxville in '76, and Jeff Rutledge started the game, but he threw a pass, he got intercepted, and as he's running over there to tackle a guy, somebody clocked him in the chin, and I looked down at him, his eyes rolled back in his head, I said, he's done, get him out. So here comes Jack over here. So Tennessee had a plan to take away the fullback and the pitch man and make the quarterback run. And Jack, I don't know if y'all know this, was a chain smoker. He smoked 3 packs of Marlboro a day. And he could run the wishbone probably better, about the same as Terry Davis. I don't know if you remember Terry Davis. And so we ran about 9 plays, and he had to run each time. When he came back to the huddle, he was white as a ghost, had white foam coming out of his mouth. He said, time out. So I said, Jack, over and get some water or something. You look terrible. So he goes over there, and we're all looking, watching. We're in Neyland Stadium, and look there, and Coach Bryant's got his rolled up thing, pushing Malmore back, handing Jack drinks. Pushing Malmore back, handing Jack drinks. So the referee, we see the referee go over there to tell him we got 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Well, you see Jack kind of shake his head like that, and he comes back on the field, and I said, what'd he say? He said, I'll tell you later, right 36 first down. So we ran the wishbone to the right, the wishbone to the left, ran the belly play to the right, the belly play to the left. Reverse option, which was my favorite play, because you come around, he would reverse out, both guards pull, and we turned it down on somebody that Ozzie had took deep. And so wiped him out. So after the game, we're on the plane ride back to Tuscaloosa. Mrs. Bryant sat in the front, and she'd always, all the smokers sat up there. She would say, I'm gonna light this clove cigarette. And I don't know if you've ever smelled a clove cigarette, but it stinks. So Jack's up there smoking with her. And so we had all the offensive linemen come up there. I'm sure Sid was there. Jack, what did Coach Bryant say? He said, well, he said, I think you need to cut back on those Marlboros, Jim. And he shook his head yes. And then he says, I don't know what you've been doing, but I want you to go back out there and keep doing it. Keep jumping back on the field. That's the only 3 plays we ran the whole game. And we had practice on a Sunday morning previous. We had a meeting when we got back from playing Southern Miss. Coach Brown had us in the annex. He comes in, he says, y'all are not a football team. He says, I'm the athletic director, and I can cancel this season. I can do that. What I want to know is, do you want to be a football team? I'm going to go outside and smoke a couple cigarettes. I'm coming back. So we all, well, yeah, we want to be a team. Sure, coach. Well, I want you dressed and ready at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Curfew at 12:30. And then he left, and Jack Rutledge got up, and it was just us, him, and the players. And I think Ray Sewell stood up. Has anybody got something to say? Ray Sewell stood up. Well, I'm tired of Charlie Hanna calling us a bunch of lazy on the scout team, but then it just kind of loose. Well, the next day at practice, there was no itinerary or anything. So we'd go out and practice. Coach Bryant sitting underneath his tower. It's fog coming up, 8 o'clock, about quarter-till. Well, the offensive line, we kind of heard like cattle. So we're out on the AstroTurf, standing there looking around. Coach Bryant walks into his, pulls back his Rolex and says, I told you to be dressed and ready at 8 o'clock. You got about 5 minutes to stretch. So, man, we hit the deck, stretch. 5 minutes later, a whole referee crew comes out. They put the ball on the 40, and we go to best against the best. And we wiped out the whole first team defense. They put them all on crutches. And unfortunately, David Gerasimchuk was the starting right guard. He decided not to come home for curfew. And Coach Brown's behind the huddle, and all of a sudden, Gerasimchuk just starts going, and then just boom, falls out in front of us. Coach Brown moved the drill down, and the thing packed him. His heart stopped. He packed him in ice, and it was just tough. And his coaches, we had a guy named Dee Powell was our coach, and I swear to God, if I didn't know where he come from and knew what his background was, I'd have never gone to the university. He was a walk-on for Coach Bryant at the junction. It was on the bus that came back from the 33 players that came back.
He coached Stallings.
He was with
He
Stallings.
and 31 others.
And, Deep Powell was intense. What did you say, Sid? That's it.
Now, Sid, pick up from there, because I know we were talking earlier. That game was a turning point for your team in a major, major way, wasn't it? That experience.
Well, it was an experience. The Southern Miss game was the hottest game I ever played. I mean, you can tell it's. I am. Okay. Is it okay? Yeah. Well, it was so hot. I mean, there was players falling out, and Coach Bryant was the most. You wouldn't say he was the most passionate guy. No.
Not in that setting, right?
At least he would move the huddle on the other side, and proceed down the field from the other side of the person falling on the ground. But what was the question?
I don't even remember. What can you tell us about it without getting us all indicted?
It was so hot. I mean, it was probably 110, 120 on the field.
Right.
At least. Okay. The Southern Miss guy, we go up to the line, and he had vomited in front of the ball. In front of me. Yeah. And you go, well, Lewis, he goes, I step aside, and he falls in it. I'm not going to jump and vomit. But nobody knew that. And we beat Southern Miss, but we got up the next morning, like you said.
Hose yourselves off.
Yeah, we won. I mean, it was, it wasn't like a 2-point win. I mean, we won. Yeah, it was a good win. And so,
Roger, give me one Give me one that stands out for you that you go, holy cow, this really did turn things around for us. Give me a turning point game for you during your time.
Well, that's it's interesting because I played for Coach Perkins, I was redshirted, and I played for Coach Curry, who came over from Georgia Tech, and then I ended up playing my senior year with Coach Stallings. So I actually went through 2 transitions, one when I was a freshman and one when I was a 3-year starter and going to be a senior with Coach. But I guess the game, I mean, I think the thing that when I look back at the seasons and stuff, I mean, the game that I remember the most out of all of them is actually, it's not a fond memory for Alabama people, but when we went down to Auburn to play for the first time in '89, I mean, that was a different, one, we got to play on grass, which I absolutely loved because we never had to play on grass in Tuscaloosa. But that was an interesting game, and I don't think at the time I didn't really understand the impact of that, us going down there and playing in that game. And I obviously, as the years have gone by and talking to people, the impact of that game was huge in what I guess Coach Dye did for Auburn. But I can remember with Coach Stallings, we started off 0-3, and we ended up, going 7-4. So we're the first team in Alabama history to start 0-3 and have a winning record. So there's something there. But everybody goes, wow. And then we played Louisville in the Fiesta Bowl. That didn't turn out too well. But it's interesting about with Coach Stallings and the change from Coach Curry and adjusting is we had to get used to each other. And that's always, every time there's a change in coaches, I always wonder how teams are going to react and how they respond. And, we thought, because Coach Stallings came from the NFL, and we knew he was a junction boy, and we thought, he's going to just kill us. We never heard a good story. It was like, they're just going to kill us. But they didn't. But it took us a while to adjust. You talk about that Southern Miss game. The hottest game I ever played was against Southern Miss in '90 when Brett Favre. They ended up kicking a field goal to beat us. But who knew Brett Favre was Brett Favre, right? I mean, he was just a quarterback from Southern Miss, who just was in a car accident, lost half his intestine, but who thought he was going to play. But that was really hot that game. So we lost that game. I think we lost to Florida because Coach Spurrier's first year at Florida, and I'll never forget. It was like, I don't know, 2nd and 8 from the 2-yard line. I'm like, what is it going to hand the ball, punt, and we'll get the ball about the 35 or 40 and we'll score. Well, he threw a bomb out of the end zone and they completed it. I thought, well, is that legal? Can you throw a bomb? Totally changed, as you see it in retrospect, totally changed how offensive football was done in the SEC. So that was Coach Spurrier. And the next week we went over to Georgia, which was a huge game for me, being from Atlanta and going to play in Georgia. Because last time we played Georgia was in 1985. So, we didn't play that often. So we went over to play my senior year, and I was real hyped up with that game. And we ended up losing that game, but we were ahead 18-0, I think. That's when Craig Sanderson got hurt, Prince Wembley got hurt. We just started losing guys. And we kind of lost that game. But after that, I think it was a Tennessee game in '90 when I said the quote that, we ought to pay property taxes because, Lee Corso and them said, Alabama's like a high school team. Tennessee's going to mop the floor with them or something. And that just fired me up. And Chris Fowler always tells me, it's like, well, he just said that. He just fired you up. I said, no, he meant it. He didn't just say that. I would coach speak. But that's kind of where it turned around. Blocked the kick. And I think that turned that around. One, it showed all the players on the team there that we believe in what Coach Stallings is doing and we're going to make it through. And obviously, it led to him going, 11-1 in '91, win the national championship in '92. So it's kind of the foundation. We had to go through a little rough patch there for that turnaround. So it's kind of a long answer to a short question. But that's kind of where I think it turned around, was probably that Tennessee game in '90. And that led for what Coach Stallings did at the University of Alabama.
I thought that might be the route you go. Slide that down to Lou for this one. We're going to start with Lou on this one.
Okay.
I want to know how you would have enjoyed playing in a hurry-up, no-huddle that is utilized so much today for offenses.
Well, we'd have loved it because that's how we practice.
Yeah.
A normal game's probably 60 to 70 plays. We practice in the dead of, 110 degrees, the field's 125 degrees. And the strangest thing is at the bank across the street from practice, we could see it flashing. The temperature, the time of temperature.
Told you.
God almighty, it's 110 degrees. So we and Coach Brown would, once the last spring practice in 76, 7 for me. Thank you. Deep Powell says, comes in the huddles, all of me, White, Bob Crider, Big Jim Bunch, David Sadler. And he looks at us and says, you know, if y'all get 25 good snaps, you'll be out of here. Well, it was hanging day, because we're standing there grabbing each other's jersey, trying to suck moisture out to get some kind of, we went 125 plays, and it just got awful. But I got to tell you this story about Bill Searcy. He just recently passed away about a year ago. Bill was a Sicilian, and we were just having a scrimmage at Denny Stadium, and I had carried my shoes in my helmet. I was sitting like right there, and Coach Bryant was at the gate. Bill comes running down with his shoulder pads, and Coach Bryant grabs and says, "Get out of here and shave that beard." You know, Bill had heavy growth. He could have shaved that morning. Whenever Jack Rutledge goes over there, Coach Bryant. Bill probably shaved yesterday morning. And Coach Bryant just turned around quick as a whip, said, "Jack, I'll kiss your whatever, and give you 2 days to draw a crowd if he just shaved yesterday morning." And I just fell out laughing. Jack comes over to me, and I had a little bit of stubble, but nothing like him. He said, "You need to go shot." I said, "Hell no, I'm on the field. I ain't going anywhere." So, Coach Bryant could be tough. He handled each other's differently. One time on my sophomore year, on a Friday, I didn't make the traveling squad, so I decided I'd ride around with Buddy Pope, drink beer, and chase a girl. So I thought they won't miss me because I'm on the scout team. Well, that Sunday night, come into the cafeteria, Lewis Green, see Coach Bryant first thing in the morning. Oh, God. They called me. So I get up about 4 a.m. I'm leaning up against his door and sleeping. And he kicks me. "What are you doing here?" I said, "It's in first thing." So I'm here. "Oh, come on, get up and come on in here." So I knew not to sit on the couch. I stood there, and he said, "You can't be missing practice. I'm going to take you off meals for indefinitely. You got anything to say?" And I was playing, I got moved from center to defensive tackle. I said, "Yeah, Coach Bryant, I know you're the head coach, and I'll do wherever you say to do. But if it's my choice, I think I'm better suited to play quick side guard as I did when I was a freshman. That's left guard." He goes, "Well, I'm the head coach around here." I said, "Yes, sir, I know that. You asked me what I wanted to say, and I said it." And he goes, "Get out of here." So anyway, the next day at practice, kept walking in. The schedule was way in the back near the showers. I turned the corner, I was back on offense. So he treated me differently than he treats anybody else. So he handled it, I thought, quite well. I gave him an A.
There you go.
We had great coaches at Alabama. I mean, our coaches, Dee Powell, Jack Rutledge, Paul Crane, all the offensive, we had, you have to remember in the 70s, we only lost the SEC championship one time, unfortunately.
We were on that team.
We were on that team, that's right, and we remember pretty well. Because, Georgia won that year, and, we played Georgia in Georgia. Coach Bryant said, "Well, you need to be captain of this." And I said, "Okay, yay." And we got over there, and Andy remembers it very well. The hotel rooms, we stayed downtown Athens in the Holiday Inn, and the fraternity guys ran around that hotel all night, beeping horns.
It was a band playing. Same exact thing in 90.
Really?
Same.
Well,
same hotel.
why did we stay there?
Noise the whole time.
Well, we pulled our mattresses out in the hall. It went all night. Okay, we go and get on the bus. We get out in Sanford Stadium, and we couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. I mean, Jeff Rutledge, he was awful.
What about the rock
rocks, they rocked the buses with.
Oh yeah, they stoned our bus.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, we were pretty shaken. But you know, the thing about Coach Bryant, you know, I one of the games, you know, I was playing against an all conference nose tackle, and you know, I was doing really well. And anyhow, you know, the way we block things, you know, you fall on the ground a lot because you're double teaming. You know, hit them, yeah, and leg with them, and you know, hold them a little bit, not much. But this particular time, I didn't hold him, but I got called for holding. You know, Coach Bryant, when you had a penalty, guess what? You came out of the ball game. Okay, you know, I was not holding. I was on the ground. Okay, you stop it, Coach Bryant. Say, Coach Bryant, I wasn't holding. That didn't work. And so you just go to the sideline, and when he gets ready to send you back in, he would send you back in, send me back in. But you know, I was pretty upset because my mother, my dad, and my high school coach was in the stands. So I pitch a fit, you know, and I just throw my helmet down, and I just. But you know, as a Christian guy, I said, you know, I'm going to have to go and apologize to Coach Bryant. Okay, on Monday, I go up to his office. Coach, can I take a couple minutes of your time? I explained the situation, and you know what he said? He said, Sid, if I would have seen you do that, you wouldn't have played anymore. So he was not very compassionate to me. But, you know, at least I got that error cleared up. And, you know, and again, Coach Bryant, you know, you were either, you know, he was for you, and if you got in the doghouse, you were not good. And he was not good about getting you out of that doghouse. You had to get out yourself. And so a lot of players, you know, they say, well, he wasn't very empathetic for my case. No. You know, he played the way he wanted to play. And, you know, I saw a lot of, you know, I came over there, you know, our group included Richard Todd, Greg Montgomery, Tyrone King, Woodrow Lowe, Leroy Cook. You go down the list, and these guys were all wonderful players. And so one thing he could do is he could bring in some folks, and we could play. Generally, 776.
Roger, I want to get your thoughts on the system now, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago with the hurry up, no huddle. You guys, with Coach Smith, Homer Smith running the offense, you were way ahead of your time in that regard, weren't you?
Well, I think we were. Of course, he ran our West Coast offense, but what was interesting about that is I was at a golf tournament, and I was sitting next to Coach Malzahn, and I told him, I said, you know, really, I was in the first ever spread game. He goes, you know, what are you talking about? Because he thinks he invented the spread offense. He thinks he's a genius now. And I said, well, in 1989, we were playing Ole Miss in Oxford, and we were down 21-0 with literally 7 minutes gone in the game. And nobody thought, so we came out in 2 by 2, one back, and just started. No huddle. It's the spread offense today. And we just went right down the field. We said about halftime it was 53-21, and we ended up winning 63-24. And so I tell him, and then I kind of thought to myself, why didn't we never do that again? Like, I mean, you know, we went back to the West Coast offense, which we played, we utilized it. We did what the San Francisco 49ers ran. Very effective, very progressive offense at that time. But I always thought, why don't we used to call it the 2-minute drill, right? That's the 2-minute drill. I don't know why we didn't do that all the time, but because the defense, they didn't even rush. I mean, we just stood there. We just watched them, and they were standing there, and Gary Holland, it was the most amazing thing I ever saw. And but I tell Miles, I said, but Homer Smith was so smart. Homer Smith wrote an article in 1974 talking about using the quarterback as a runner because he's unaccounted for by the defense. And it's an art. It's basically the offense that you see today that all these schools are running. Homer Smith wrote that article in 1974. And I have it. If you guys would like it, I'll send it to you. But it's kind of interesting how he did it. But we loved Homer Smith. So when I played at Alabama, I played for 3 head coaches, 4 offensive coordinaters, and 5 offensive line coaches. So I played for, so everybody goes, can you adapt to change? I said, I sure can. I mean, they go, why don't you change your clothes, you dirty, rotten dude? But I didn't know how to do laundry.
I got enough time for about 1 or 2 minutes from each of you on this, and you may have shared that. Let's start with Roger. Tell us what Alabama, as both the university, in your words, Alabama's university and the football program did for you.
Well, I mean, it defines me. I mean, when you talk about Roger Schultz, it's going to come up that he played football at Alabama. But I think the most important thing I got out of it, obviously, lifelong friends, and the friends I didn't even, that I made along the way, like my idols. It's kind of neat when Joe Namath goes, hey, Schultz, and you're like, you call my name? How do you know me? But it's just like I know these current players, right? Like, I know all the current players. I'm sure they don't know who the hell I am, right. But I know who they are. And so it was kind of, that's the neat part about it. Taking, just meeting these guys that you looked up to. And he talked about Paul Crane. I didn't know much about Paul Crane, but when I went to Alabama, I went to an old bookstore, and they had an old magazine that had an All-American team in it. And I looked at it, and there was a guy named Paul Crane. And I go, well, I never heard of Paul Crane. So he became then I found out he went to the Jets and all this. So Paul lived, I live in Mobile now. So I became friends with Paul, and he's just, what a neat guy. And I used to tell him all the time, he's passed away, but I used to tell him all the time, I was like, hey, you're mine. And he goes, oh, shut up, But I said, yeah, because one, I didn't really know I knew who Leroy Jordan was, and I knew who Mike Stevenson was, but some guys but then you meet them and they go, wow, so that's the part I take away with is obviously the friendship with the guys I played with and the bond that we still have. We're on these group texts watching the games. That's the most important part. But really the best part ever, if it wasn't for the University of Alabama, I would have never gotten a college education. I probably went a different route. I don't know what my route would have been. But I was able to get a college degree. Coach Stallings thought enough of me to keep me around to coach and be a GA to get a master's degree. So I was able to get educated and be lifelong friends and be a part of something, as all of us are. We're part of the University of Alabama, and we're pretty damn proud of it. There's nowhere we go that people don't understand the University of Alabama, and that's because what Bear Bryant did, Wallace Wade did. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that surprised me was I didn't even I just knew Bear Bryant, all these champions from the 60s, and said, that's what I grew. Heck, I didn't even know they were great in the 20s. I mean, who put the South on the map? The University of Alabama football did. So that's I think that being a part of that, and I'm just a little bit of speck of that. I mean, I dreamed my whole life, and I exceeded my dream. I never, I thought I was going to be a Furman. I ended up at Alabama, but I ended up marrying an Auburn girl. So you did, she met me when I was
missionary work.
Well,
that's all it is. Missionary work.
Well, I was on The Biggest Loser, and I met her when I was 400 pounds, and I said, man, if there's a girl that knows how to milk a cow, it's an Auburn girl. So I'm like, I said, yeah, she's mine. I hope they stop filming that. I hope my wife doesn't see that.
I'm more worried about that statue flying off the wall and taking you out. Sid, take the mic from him quick, please. I knew I went one question too many with him. Follow that. If you hand it to Lou right now, he'll just build off of it. So we're gonna calm it down for a minute.
I tell you, the two things. The University of Alabama, first and foremost, as a sophomore, I came in relationship to Jesus Christ. I became a Christian. It changed my life instantly. And outlook on life. I've got, I have 4 beautiful children, and I married an Alabama girl, and she was the best. She was God was the first, and she was the best second. And she wouldn't mind acknowledging that. But I had 3 boys and a girl. I've got, now I've got 13 grandchildren. And going to have a 14th here pretty soon. And I feel that without, the instruction I received from a group called the Navigators, a Christian organization. And go Navs. They call the Navigators the Never Daters. But anyhow, it set the platform for me to minister to some really great kids. I was telling Chris, 4 months ago I had a very hard open heart surgery, and God, I had hundreds of Alabama football players and friends and praying for me, and this is seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things should be yours as well.
I would say that, playing for Alabama and being part of Coach Bryant's teammates and team has opened so many doors in the business world. I am in the fiberglass business. I sell mineral powder to people that manufacture fiberglass tubs and showers. And, when I go in, they see how big I am. And they, did you play football? As a matter of fact, I did. Look at my ring. Yeah. And I get to telling Coach Bryant stories, and it's just opened up so many doors. But I gotta tell you a couple quick ones. Y'all remember Dude Hennessy?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He was Coach Bryant sent him to Tulane one year to scout the Tulane game. So when he got back, Coach Bryant would say, "Dude, give us 30 minutes on Tulane." Well, Dude goes up to the chalkboard and they do kick a game, and this is how they line up for the kicking game. This is how they do defense. And Coach Bryant said, "Damn, Dude, did you even go to the game?" Another story is Bobby Rice, who used to take care of the grounds. He was telling me the story. I tell you the story about Coach Bryant. I said, "No, what is it?" So, and hell, I couldn't say this the first time I ever mentioned. So, he says he showed Sam Bailey some architectural drawings, some planning he wanted to do out front of the Coliseum. He said, "I don't understand any of this. Can you show me?" He says, "Sure." He said, "Well, let's see. Coach Bryant wants to go." So they go, Sam Bailey goes, "Paul, Bobby wants to show us something. You got a minute?" "Sure." Well, the hallway down to some glass doors was about halfway to the back. And some player was come through, wasn't me. And Coach Bryant started calling us. He says, "You know what? Your teammates are calling you a turd. You're going to be a turd all your life." He's just, and this kid.
That's Latin for not a very nice person,
Yeah.
for those of you that aren't sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, but that's what he said. So when he got to the door, Coach Bryant grabbed the door from Bobby. He says, "Bobby, you think I got that young man's attention?" He says, "I don't know, Coach, but you damn sure got mine."
Guys,
Yeah. And one other, please.
absolutely.
We're playing Vanderbilt in '77 up at Vanderbilt, and their locker rooms were so small we had to dress at the hotel. So it was a very windy, rainy kind of day. And so we were on about a 38 going out, and we didn't make a first down, so the punt team comes on. Buddy Holt was the punter. Well, I don't know what caused him to do this, but he didn't tell anybody he was going to run to the left and try to go for it. And he didn't make it. So on the film, you can see Buddy coming this way. Coach Bryant's headed right to it. People were falling out of Coach Bryant's way because he's walking fast. He goes over there and takes that paper, slams him on the head, and says, "Who the hell do you think you are, Richard Todd?" So anyway, that's
Guys, we have a lot of fun with you tonight. but you are such a major part of what makes Alabama or makes the Crimson Tide something that we as fans are so grateful to be a part of. We appreciate so much what you did when you wore the uniform. We appreciate even more what you've done since then and who you are as men, and we greatly appreciate you giving us some of your time tonight. Thank you so much. Roll Tide. Lou said there's an after party.